Christ. Hey everybody, it's Eric. Welcome back to the Indie Lit Forum. It's been a couple of days since the last time I uploaded anything. It's just life. Life happened. I did do a lot of reading, so I have a lot of books to talk about. Unfortunately, I still haven't gotten back and done some of the reading I need to do on some of the older books that I really would like to get videos up here for, which is why today's video is going to be on book four in a series, because I just honestly don't think I will make it back to the earlier ones before I have other stuff to do. And I feel like I can kind of talk about this entire series when I talk about this one book. And so today we're going to be looking at Monster Girl Base 4 by Logan Jacobs. Uh, Logan Jacobs is a rather prolific author. He turns out about a book a week. I generally don't like everything he does, but he does have a couple of series that I have enjoyed. This one probably being the first and foremost. Because this one, well, Monster Girl Base is what it's kind of like a cross. It's kind of like a cross between Sliders and Rick and Morty in many ways. It's about the protagonist is named Dave Meyer, and he's a schmo. He does grocery deliveries for a living, and one day he gets a video email from his Uncle Soul telling him that all kinds of crazy shit's going down and that the government's after him, may have already gotten him, and he needs to go blow up his shit. So, Dave Meyer, I guess, knowing Soul as well as he does, goes to do exactly this, and the next thing he knows, he's gallivanting across dimensions in an old Lincoln. And this series, it's fun. It's fun. And it's also interesting. Like, there's the whole kind of constantly shuffling dimensions thing really opens up a chance for doing all kinds of story building. Or not story building, world building. Because some of the worlds that he winds up visiting are very interesting and very well realized. This is very much kind of harem. It's very much in the harem lit genre. Uh, but it's, kind of a little softer on that than some other ones. Even by the end of this book four, Dave Meyer's still only gallivanting around with three girls and a miniature woolly mammoth named Floppy. Floppy's fun. And the first two girls he actually meets in the first book. One of them, Emma, is from a world where Tesla wasn't hampered by Edison, pretty much, in, releasing his inventions on the world. Just unfortunately, that had the downside of he tried to do his massive provide power to the world concept and electrified everything in the world, killed most people, killed most living things, and the only animals and humans that survived with the power to basically generate electricity almost at will. So that was an interesting world. And then the other girl from the first book was Sheila, who's basically a cat girl, pretty much just, a saber-toothed cat girl. And she's from a world that just kind of differed greatly at evolution, and so you had sentient beings evolve from multiple different mammalian species, and but none of them really went past the Stone Age, probably maybe just because of the competition between the different species. But those two those two worlds are interesting themselves, but it was, and book two had some really interesting stuff in there as well. But the one that I think really stood out as far as world building was book three. That's when that my expectations of the series were heightened greatly on that one, because they visited one world where the European conquest of the Americas didn't really happen. And so, like, North America wound up being taken control of by the Aztecs, or a civilization descendant from the Aztecs. I guess one thing I should point out is that the nature of how they jump world to world, they don't really change they don't change their position geographically. They're always in a suburb of Detroit. Just sometimes Detroit is not very large because, sometimes there's not even an actual city there. Sometimes there's no people there, but they're always geographically in pretty much the same place. So that right there is kind of interesting. It's kind of like you always have the same setting, but it's always different, which it's interesting. It's it kind of helps highlight the differences between the various different worlds greatly, I think. Whereas, if you did a different kind of conceit, it could be like, oh, well, maybe it's just, something weird happened in this one place. But no, it really helps emphasize just how different the whole world is, because you're in the same place you were just in, but it is completely and utterly different in some way or another. But then the other place they visited in the third book was more dystopic, cyberpunk kind of thing, which had some really great characters in it. And just all in all, book three I felt was where that series really started to shine. Unfortunately, after book three was also when Logan Jacobs revealed it's like this one kind of underperformed, so I'm very much back burnering it. I'll finish it eventually, but it's just not a priority, which is kind of sad because, like I said, out of all the different series of his that I have tried, I've enjoyed several of them, but I don't think any of them really stood out as much as this one does. I am shaking the camera with my leg, sorry. But I there is another series of his I definitely want to cover a couple of books of on here in the future. So I'll probably be hitting those at some point. The Soul Gem Collector series, like first three books in that one, I really loved. After that, it kind of fizzled a tad, but still, the first three books were really good, and yeah, I still think worth reading. And the series is completed, so you can pick. I think it stopped at five, so you can pick up five books, read the whole thing. But no, it's six, six. Sorry. Anyway, I digress. Sorry, sorry. But book four, world building wise, maybe not quite as interesting as three entirely, but still some interesting stuff going on there. I still enjoyed it, but I think where this one really kind of shined a little bit better was I felt like there was more of kind of a emotional, payoff with certain characters, and just, some of the interactions between different characters, I think, really kind of gelled a little bit more in this one. Like, in some way, there it seemed like there was less, edge of your seat action in this one. Like, they still had some of that in there, but it was, there was a lot more of just the different characters kind of, gelling together a little bit better. And I thought that I liked it. I thought it worked really well. And there was still some interesting world building in there as well. The last world they visited, like, it was a world. It was, a little more in line with the cyberpunk view they had at the in the last world of the third book, but in this one, it was a world where the problems of homelessness and overpopulation and so much of this stuff had been solved through this like genius invention of these dimensional doors. Like you just have a doorway, you put it in a any flat surface whatsoever, and inside that doorway you have like anywhere from a 20. You basically have like a little small efficiency apartment, or a large 2 3 bedroom apartment. And so, just by providing everybody with these doors, you're providing everybody, everybody has a home. Like, so, you don't have homelessness. You don't necessarily have people having to struggle to pay the rent, which, so, yeah, it isn't that there's still some really interesting world building going on in this one, but I still think where this book shined more was in exploring the characters a little bit better and getting to, hang out with those characters some. And I thought that worked really well. So, yeah, I would definitely recommend picking up this series. I mean, it's probably not going to go too many more books unless a lot of you go and pick up, the entire series, or, just this book and get into it and really start making it pay off better for him. More than likely, I want to say there's probably a book or two left, but at the same time, there's something to be said for that. Like, sometimes when certain series just keep going, going, and going, and going forever, I just wind up losing interest. I'm going to probably cover a couple of those books here soon. It doesn't necessarily mean they're bad, it's just after a point, I just start being invested in the characters quite so much. But anyway, this is starting to run a little long, so once again, thank you for watching. Thank you for coming around and hanging out with this experiment I'm doing. We'll see how far this keeps going. Hopefully, for a while, and maybe I can build more of an audience. And in, spirit of that, if you're liking what I'm doing, like the video, subscribe, chime something in the comments. Like, I get a kick out of it every time I get one of those, because it's like, hey, somebody cares enough to do that. Wow, cool. So, yeah, once again, thank you, and I will try not to make it be so long until I get another video up. You have a nice day.